Good morning, Stephanie.
Good morning, Rinnie. How are you?
I am great this morning. I was just thinking, it's been a minute since we sat down and did a podcast together. What's been going on?
It's been weeks of cray cray.
I know, I got sick for a week.
You got sick, and then I think I had some illness in my family, and then the world is being turned inside out and upside down.
Yeah, I know. WEBB Squared lost one of our teammates for several
And
weeks.
then we got him back, and if what we're witnessing, or not just witnessing, but seeing from the news reports, if it's true, then that's the new normal because a lot of people have been getting fired and rehired or quitting or not knowing what to do. So,
And then you were buried in grant writing so
oh
that we
my
can get money
gosh.
to keep doing services and programs for entrepreneurs.
Exactly. And then not knowing how to write the doggone grants because some of them for with government. So go figure.
Ah, crazy days. But we are here still and we are doing another podcast. We're going to finish up our series on trust. And I think trust is really important in our lives and our business. It's the foundation of so many things in our world. And I think if you're ready, we can just start talking about trust.
Absolutely. I think this is the perfect conversation to have in these moments. So let's get into it.
Welcome back, everyone, to the WEBB Remedy podcast. I'm Rinnie Orr, Associate Director of WEBB Squared, and our WEBB Remedy podcast mastermind, which means I do the editing and producing.
And hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Terry, and so glad to be here.
And today, as we mentioned in our opening, we are going to be resuming our conversation on trust. And Stephanie, we're going to dive into The Speed of Trust by Stephen M.R. Covey for the next few weeks. You introduced this book to me, and
Yes.
we both enjoy it so much. Do you want to say a little bit about why you recommend this book to listeners?
Yes. Well, first off, I absolutely love this book. And Stephen M.R. Covey is the son of the famous The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, Covey. That's his dad. And that's another one of my favorite books. I think every entrepreneur should have that on their shelf. But when I found this book, I was like, oh my gosh, this explains so much. And Stephen Covey starts off by saying, trust is the one thing that changes everything. And I love that he, in this book, exemplified and analyzed how trust is not just a feel good personal relationship principle or virtue, but trust is a key informant in determining the speed and efficiency of not just your personal success, but your organizational success. And so that means your business. And if you want to, if I was to succinct the entire book, like what the book is about, it would be in this sentence. When trust is high, decisions are quicker, communication is more effective, collaboration is smoother, adaptation to change is faster, and productivity increases. That's it. When trust is high, things get done. When trust is low,
They don't get done.
or they get done with a whole lot of resources and energy and pain.
I was thinking about the other day when we met to discuss two important aspects of our work together, and then we ended up talking like for 45 minutes about our personal lives, and then we had 15 minutes left, and we looked at each other and we said a couple of things, and at the end of it, we realized we didn't need a whole hour to make decisions. And I said, hey, Stephanie, that's the speed of trust. We
Yes.
know each other really well. Our minds are synced.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So, yeah, so I feel like, trust needs to be at the center of strategic initiatives, collaboration. And at Web, we're building an ecosystem around entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs in our community and in Chatham County. And I think that without trust, we would get lost because change comes so quickly at us. So we need to bring our community and business leaders together. And without trust, we can only move the needle at a very slow, slow snail's pace. So, how do we do that, especially in these times when we're being bombarded with constant news about things changing so rapidly and even some things falling apart?
But that old way of like, do as I say, don't ask questions, think like me, that a kind of authoritarian, kind of over, under style of leadership, um, it's not going to work today. You know, even here in the rural South in North Carolina, it's still very global. There are people from all over the world, right? There's different perspectives and different viewpoints and different products. And so the reality is the business world today demands collaboration, creativity, and enough trust to understand people that may not look like you, be like you, and all those other things. And so, being able to understand how to institutionalize trust in your organization will help combat some of all of this anxiety and confusion that we're currently having to deal with. What do you think, Rinnie?
Yeah, I think we definitely need to work within our local communities, bring people together, build communities, and out of those communities, build strategic partnerships, maybe create systems of trust around us, so that we can get the collaboration we need to be change agents. I mean,
Yeah.
because basically we're leaders, we're building businesses, we're building organizations. This is part of like taking our leadership and stepping up to the plate and building communities of care around ourselves and our people that we work with every day. But I feel like, yes, trust is something that can be taken outward into these organization stuff, but it also needs to start inward. And the first section of Covey's book is talking about how trust is part of our mindset as individuals. And if we can trust ourselves, it's much easier to collaborate and be out in the community doing things.
I'm going to tell you, I'm glad you bring that up, Brittany, because I'm thinking about myself now and I'm thinking about my young self. And I can remember a long period of time, like teenager, 20s, maybe half of my 30s, where I didn't trust myself. I did not. I didn't trust that my thoughts were good.
Did you know that you couldn't trust yourself?
Um, no, I think my mother pointed it out to me.
Oh.
I think I don't remember the circumstance, but I remember her saying, you need to trust yourself more. And I think maybe what she was noticing was that before I made a decision, I was always asking for people's opinions and just like I don't know, like I needed approval. I think that's what she was noticing. But this self-trust, which is in the book, that Covey talks about, and he talks about it in waves. He says there's like 5 waves or 5 levels of trust, but the first one is self-trust. And when I was reading the book, like I had to put it down because the thing that came to me was, how can you trust yourself if you don't even know yourself? Or there are parts of yourself that you may not like, or you may be super critical about, and some of that may come from just you, or some of it just may come from the environment that you were raised in, like those cycles of socialization we talk about.
But do you want to tell me, just in a nutshell, what is the cycle of socialization?
Yeah, it's the process of indoctrination that every human being is exposed to when we're born. And it's by default because we're born into a culture. Well, first, we're born into a family, into a culture, into a country, and we're subjected to the culture and policies of those institutions. And according to what's considered good or bad or right or wrong, we internalize that information and make adjustments so that we can be accepted or not into the society. And so that process may be great. It depends. It may be like, oh, we only eat kale, but you like carrots. So and that's where it kind of can get really weird, because if you're different than maybe who your family is or your country or community, maybe that's where you begin to develop some of that lack of self-trust that is so needed if you want to experience trust in your outer relationships. Yeah. But back to our
Book group, book study?
yes, because I can go off on a rant. But at its core, self-trust is about integrity. It's about being aligned with your values, and like knowing your values, and then your behavior and your mindset acting in a way that reflects who you truly are. So it's the idea of not just talking your talk, but walking your talk.
Yeah, I like the idea that integrity is about being honest with ourselves in a very deep personal way. Um, and what you said about bridging that gap between like our inner thoughts and our behaviors, our actions. So if there is no gap, then we become trustworthy to others and credible. In our marketing study group that we created, we really start talking about our values. What are our personal values, and how do these values guide ourselves and our business?
Yeah. A lot of times, Rinnie, we don't start with values. We start with like goals, right? We start with goals, we start with the vision of what we want, but invisible inside of those goals is our values, because you can have a goal, but if you're not fully in line with your values, you can get to a goal in all kinds of ways, right? And some of those ways may violate your values, and some may affirm them. So that's what this conversation is about today. Getting in alignment around our values so that we can have self-trust, and so that we can have integrity. Integrity. And I don't know, before I go into the next part, what does integrity mean to you, Rennie?
I think on a personal level, integrity means knowing what I need to do and showing up and doing it. And making sure that I'm accountable to the things that I say that I'm going to do. I really, this might be a value that I hold that I don't even know I hold, but I really don't like to leave people hanging. And if I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, it really hurts me at the core because I feel like I've let people down. So I think for me, it's just integrity is balancing that, making sure that I do what I say I'm going to do.
Integrity means the same thing, but I want to share a personal story about this word integrity that happened to me and in a business. So I was probably about like in my mid 20s, and it was one of my first jobs. And so I got a job at this like health food store, and I loved this job. So it was Thanksgiving time, and my husband did not get paid until the end of the month. So Thanksgiving usually falls like the 25th. His job didn't pay him until like the end of November. And we, at my job, we got paid every 2 weeks. And the payday for this particular job came on the Friday after Thanksgiving. And so all of my coworkers were saying, "Oh, we're gonna get paid before Thanksgiving because that's how they always do it," right? So I was like, "Great!" So I ordered a turkey from the job, and I was like, "Good, I'll get my check, cash it, and then come back and pay for the turkey." Well, the Tuesday came and no word of pay. Wednesday came and I went to HR and I was like, "Are we going to get paid today?" And she said, "No, we decided to just keep the payday after Thanksgiving. We did it that way last year, but we're not doing it this year." So I was like, "Oh my God." So anyway, long story short, that year we did not have Thanksgiving on Turkey Day, right? And I got my check and I wound up purchasing the turkey on like that Monday. So my boss that later that week called me into the office and he said, your turkey was holding too much space. Everybody was supposed to pick up their turkey before Thursday. And why did you pick up yours late? And he said, you don't have any integrity. And I said to him, like, that hurt me, Rinnie, like that bothered me. And I said to him, the reason why I didn't pick it up is because I was told that we were going to get paid on the Wednesday and I didn't have any money. And he took his glasses off and he was like, "You didn't have any money to buy?" I said, "No." And he had a moment and I had a moment and he apologized. That really bothered me about the expectation around integrity versus the reality of life.
Yeah. I also feel like he's not using the word integrity right
Yeah.
in that. I mean, that integrity has nothing to do with your ability to pick up a turkey.
Well, what if I told him that I was gonna, he was holding me to that. Like everybody was supposed to agree to pick up their turkey Wednesday, and I didn't have the courage, the humility to tell him I didn't have any money. I was embarrassed, and I didn't pick it up until I got some money. At that time, my pride was stronger than my humility.
And humility in the book, at least by Covey standards, is another integral part of self-trust.
Yes. And so I could not admit, I did not want to admit, and I could not get over. I wanted to, I didn't want to be the one that didn't have money to be able to buy a turkey. I didn't want to stand out like that. And so it was difficult. And I didn't, it took me years after that incident to have courage and humble myself over my situation when it came to honestly sharing like my circumstances. That it took years.
I want to make sure that we understand humility and humbleness. It's not the same as being humiliated.
Right.
It's more an internal process about how we go through ourselves. It's not about someone like your employer was humiliating you, but when you're talking about becoming humble and feeling some humility is a personal mindset around becoming aware of your behavior and your actions and where you're at with regard to your full being. It has nothing to do with that guy putting you down and saying, "Hey, you have no integrity."
Right, right. But I'm glad that it happened because it brought forth a word that I had never like it never was brought up in my life. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have my mom with her wise self shared a lot with me, but that was not a word that she focused on, was integrity. And so from that moment on, actually, Rinnie, I remember when he said it, I did not know what the word meant. I remember leaving and I was like, I got to look up what this word means. So now I embrace embrace that word because the more awareness of my values and what really matters to me and the quality of my relationships that I want to share and experience, then the more that, I align up with the word integrity and with the word trust. It becomes like a guidepost in how I choose to be in my business and in my life. I also want to say this. So this process of institutionalizing trust in your business ventures or in your organization or in your relationships, it starts with self-trust. Self-trust starts with self-awareness, right? And self-awareness starts with, what are your values? What are the things that really matter to you? Asking yourself tough questions like, this is my perspective. Am I truly open to another person's point of view? Can I understand where they're coming from? Do they have a story behind how they're showing up? Like, that's the process of building this. So it's simple, but it's not easy.
Yes, it also requires constant evolution. And we always say evolution comes through dialogue. And so it's about being open to growth, having those internal conversations with ourselves, but being willing to listen to the advice and wisdom and perspectives of other people as well. So it's about really being open to growth.
And growth is also having an understanding of our own motives and our intentions. Because trust doesn't just come from what we do, but understanding why we do what we do. And if, like, you understand that, if your motives are rooted in genuine care for others, then trust is going to come. Like Rinnie, sometimes when we first started WEBB, we didn't always understand what we were doing, right? And we had different perspectives about how to get there. But we've always been clear about why we're doing what we're doing. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that we've always had this mutual vision that we were able to play off of each other, and that vision helps drive us even when we disagree or step into some uncomfortable like feelings when we're at odds. But it's that idea of knowing where we want to get to and having that intention, and that keeps us grounded and has helped us move beyond some of those conflicts and tensions.
And what would you say about the like our actions and intentions? Like, what's that relationship?
At least for me, I genuinely want us to succeed so that you will win and I will win. There were reasons we started this that had to can I say, maybe it wasn't the purest of intentions, but we had something to prove to ourselves and to the world. And I think that we've actually evolved beyond that, that we're not necessarily doing it to prove anything anymore, but we have a mission, we have a vision that we're really excited about, and we have entrepreneurs that we really care about, that we want to help succeed and see that success on, Webb's growth, but also the growth of the people that we're serving.
Absolutely. We truly want our entrepreneurs to build their dreams. We want them to be successful. We want them to win. And in that process, this is our dream that we're building, wanting to serve. But wanting it and saying it is a whole nother thing than acting. That's one level. But acting it out through our programs, through the policies, like how we deliver our programs, the policies that we implement, like that really speaks a lot to how we show up for others and how we treat them. And it's a real testimony to our intention.
Yeah, Stephanie, it is really all about intention. Well, on that note, let's wrap up. We'll talk more about relational and organizational trust in the next couple of episodes. Please stay tuned. But before we go, let's move into our moment of gratitude, and Joseph will finish us out with his Ponder This segment.
So I'm grateful for, first off, really, really, really good friends and my family. I'm grateful that my husband is alive and breathing and that I love him and he loves me. I'm grateful for my work relationships, you, Rinnie. I'm grateful for the entrepreneurs. I'm grateful for all the amazing people that we work with, that in spite of whatever this country is doing, they have not forgotten their humanity. And so I'm grateful for that.
I'm going to echo that. I spend a lot of time these days with people who are feeling anxious and afraid. And lately, I feel like it's just me as reminding people there's still good people, still good things happening in the world. And I got a free invitation, Stephanie, to the NC Rural Summit. And it was a group of like 600 people coming together from all over the state of North Carolina, sharing their perspectives and the work they're doing in the rural communities. It was so inspiring because nobody there was lamenting the state of the world. They're just going, we're still plowing through. The governor was there. He gave a wonderful talk about we still have a vision for this state.
Yes.
We had state representatives and Senator Robert Reeves was there. And they're like, yeah, there's some not so great things happening in the world, but we're staying the course.
That's right.
And I think that all of us these days just need to continue to lift up that we're human, that we live in community, and there are people who will uplift us, that we're not alone.
That's right. That's right. So, and that's why we need to keep talking.
Yeah, because what?
The evolution begins with dialogue.
Ponder this. How do you define self-trust in your own life? How does integrity play a role in building trust within yourself and with others? How can leaders in your community or organization inspire trust through their actions, not just their words? How can trust be nurtured in a collaborative environment? With so much uncertainty in the world today, how can you stay grounded in trust while facing challenges?
Thank you for listening to the WEBB Remedy podcast, a mindset shifting project of WEBB Squared. Well Through Entrepreneurship for Black and Brown Businesses is a North Carolina nonprofit located in Chatham County. We offer incubator accelerator business services to Black and BIPOC entrepreneurs. Our podcast hosts are Stephanie Terry and Rinnie, the co-founders of WEBB Squared. We realize that building an ecosystem of support is critical to achieving our mission. Your donation to WEBB supports the podcast, WEBB's coaching services, and the promotion of the businesses and entrepreneurs we serve. To learn more about WEBB Squared, please visit our website at webbsquared.org.